I'm Cynthia. I'm a member of Morgantown Mountaineers Individual Citizen Action, also called MICA, M-I-C-A. And we have the honor of having Reverend Jenny Williams lead this little workshop today. Christian Nationalism, why should we care? Which is the first step to get people to care and be aware and care. And I'm super happy about this one. What should we do? What could we expect with some guidance from Jenny about what's coming down the pike? And not be helpless. Not just lay down and die. Not give up before you even try. So,
great. Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia. It's good to be with you all today. I'm going to say a few preliminary things before we get into it. I'm Reverend Jenny Williams. I use she, her pronouns. I'm ordained clergy in the United Methodist Church. I don't currently serve a church. For the last 4 years, I've been a community organizer. So I want to hear about you in a little bit, but I'll tell you about me. I work with an organization called Justice and Jubilee, which is a movement for collective liberation. It's rooted in progressive Christianity, and it's born right here in West Virginia. We are a movement that includes all sorts of people, people who identify as Christians, people who've been really harmed by churches, people who don't identify as Christians. And so we say we're rooted in progressive Christianity, but it's not an exclusive movement. So I first met Cynthia when I did one of these workshops in November. We held it at the First Presbyterian Church. Cynthia and I began a working relationship since then. You'll hear a little bit more about her involvement in some of the stuff that we've started in the last year, but I'm just so grateful to be here today with all of you. I'm thrilled that there are so many of you today. How many of you, let's give you a little bit of a spectrum. I'd like to understand faith identification in this room. It will just help me learn how to teach this to you. So why don't you all close your eyes and put your hand up if you identify as a Christian. Okay, you can put your hands down. Put your hand up if you absolutely do not identify as a Christian. And you can put your hand down, and put your hand up if you're somewhere in the middle. Great, you can put your hand down. We have about a third in the room, so that's great to know. I'm wondering if anybody would like to share what led you to the basement of the library on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Why do you want to be here? What's your connection and what's your interest? We'll just take a couple of folks saying that. Yeah, Ron.
So, I am a Christian, and I don't, solid, that's what y'all know. But I also want you to know that this is not Christian, and this is important. What else is important is that actually, Jenny's being nice, as far as I'm concerned. It is actually white Christian nationalism. Okay, I'm sure there are some blacks, but the blacks who are involved in this don't realize that the whites don't want them involved. Okay. And so the big thing about this for me is the fact that the story behind this group is they're not Christian, they're a political organization, and actually their idea is to actually destroy democracy as we know it and have a I want to say, they think it's something else, but I'm gonna say what they want is a dictatorship, and they want everyone to follow their idea of what Christian is, and which is, like I've already said, it's not.
Thank you, Ron. Who else? Somebody else want to holler out? Go for it.
I'm Paul. I am a Christian.
I feel like we're an AA group. I'm a Christian. Yeah.
That's all we're covered up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad for it. Yeah.
I'm here because I think it's important that we understand that, you know, when I talk with people and I tell them I'm a Christian or the thing comes up, what I've found over the last 15 years, let's say, is that I'm starting at a disadvantage because the term Christian has been twisted and warped. So it's really hard. You have to almost, it's not like it used to be. And I do tell people about my faith and my conversion. And I don't want to live in a theocracy. I like this country the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's important.
The way it was.
Yeah, well, right, the way it was. I think it's important that we understand what's happening. And then maybe we can begin at a different place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah,
I'm hoping to learn how to talk about this
Okay.
with people who may be borderline or leaning in this direction, so that there's more enlightenment and less fire.
yeah. How many of you have people in your life, loved ones or people in your circles that you suspect would be sympathetic to Christian nationalist ideals? Yeah, it's like super common here. Yeah. Okay, hopefully we will give you what you want today. One of the things that I'll say later on is that I am part of a leadership team that does like 6-hour workshops on this. So some of the things that you have named are things we delve into when we have a longer period of time together, but I think you'll find that we'll have a fair amount of stuff to cover today. And I do want to address one thing that Ron said, which is I don't tend to use white Christian nationalism because that's confusing to people, because they see people of color up in front. They're being tokenized, but up in front in those kinds of spaces. But it's definitely rooted in white supremacy, 100%. So yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do today as far as goals is we're going to give a primer on Christian nationalism, talk about recent developments, and be ready for what is next, and talk about ways to participate in resistance movements and activities. So I'm a pastor who's teaching about Christian nationalism, but my goal is to demonstrate that it is a political movement, okay? So I'm able to come in and pretty clearly say it's not Christianity. So lots of people can have that opinion, but hopefully when you hear it coming from a pastor's mouth, you'll believe that that's true. So you're welcome to take notes. You can use your phone. There's stuff I'll reference all throughout, and if you want to whip out your phone and look up something, that's fine with me. Okay, so just to give you a little more information, so Justice and Jubilee is the organization that I work with, and we're a partner of the West Virginia Faith Collective. The West Virginia Faith Collective is a partnership of faith-based entities in the state that work for social justice through community organizing or advocacy. So you might have heard of From Below. They're really sounding the bells about the water crisis in southern West Virginia. If you have just heard about that in the last couple of years, it's because of the work of From Below, which is a couple of pastors, one of whom is rooted in McDowell County. Ron.
Since you're talking about water, I'm sorry, you put your foot in it. I would encourage everyone here to go on, if you have not seen this before, on 60 Minutes. There is something about McDowell County. Okay, if you have not seen that, you need to go see it. The From Below is connected to that, and of course, Jenny is too, obviously, because she's connected with this. But I truly, highly want to encourage you to look this information up, because we live in, most of the people here raise their hand, they're from Montague County. We don't give one thought about going to our faucets and taking a drink, okay? I was in Beckley earlier this week, and I was kind of like, do I want to drink this water? I think it's okay. In McDowell County, it is absolutely not.
It's not okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about telling you that. You need to go look it up.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks. Okay, we're going to start by talking about authoritarianism, a light topic to begin with. So we're going to trip through a little bit of information about this. In order, authoritarianism is the big, kind of broad dynamic that's at work, and we'll kind of funnel down to Christian nationalism. Okay? So, a couple of key points about authoritarianism. It's concentrating power, right? That it happens slowly for a while, and we'll get to that in a minute, but it is something that has been under an undercurrent for decades, okay? So what we're experiencing now is not new. And it's important to note that it's not just one person, right? We currently have a figurehead of authoritarianism, but that is a person who is representing lots of organizations, lots of people, lots of money, lots of coordination for decades, okay? And there is a long history of this undercurrent in the United States. So we're not just focusing on one elected official, but rather of these broader dynamics that have been at play for a long time in our country. So this is what authoritarians do. You can see 6 options right there. Yes, there's gonna be a lot of laughter. It's really fine. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I wonder if someone might want to give an example of one of these that you've seen happen in the last couple of years. Yeah.
For the second one, on the left,
Yep.
the middle one, I guess, definitely ICE agents kind of getting away with a lot of things that even police officers wouldn't.
Yep.
And that's already a place of privilege when it comes to bending the law in your favor. So that's definitely a increasing issue over the past couple of years.
For sure. Thank you for naming that. Yeah. Yeah.
ABC, Jimmy Kimmel, regulatory retaliation.
Sure. Yep. Yep. Okay. What else? Yeah.
Yeah, regulatory retaliation, I mean, you just can't seem to stop. Where does that hate come from? That, you know, it's almost like, I don't like the color you're wearing.
Yeah. Right. Seems kind of arbitrary sometimes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They must be against everything.
Other examples?
Minneapolis.
Yeah, go ahead.
The autocrat won't leave.
Yeah, let's talk about that one.
January 6th.
Yeah, sure, yeah. And also, are we going to do away with elections? Right, okay, yeah. What else? Yeah.
The direct investigation against critics, the one about the former, I forget his name now.
Yep. What about top right? Yeah, go ahead.
Whenever Trump took control of the California National Guard
Sure.
and deployed them against their will.
Sure, absolutely. DC, right? Yeah, Minneapolis, yeah. Okay, so we know what we're talking about. We've seen it, yep. Okay, so we named examples for the United States, but authoritarianism, there have been so many authoritarian regimes that have been studied, and these are just a handful of examples. One thing to note about that is that the folks that are in authoritarian regimes are explicitly and intentionally sharing notes with each other, okay? There's a lot of conversation. So again, this is not one person acting, and this is a playbook, and the playbook is used around the world and has been for a long time, okay? We are in a period of authoritarian breakthrough. So some people say, oh no, authoritarianism, fascism, whatever, it's happening right now. No, it's breaking through. What's been happening for a long time under the surface is now breaking through, where there's this rapid attempt to consolidate power, eliminate checks and balances, and just operate like a bull in a china shop, okay? All right. So now we're going to kind of funnel down a little bit. Autocrats often use right-wing religion. Okay, we know that there's a lot of power in religious symbolism, in anything that's sort of cloaked in spiritual authority, right? Those power dynamics are huge. So it's a tool that's available and used by authoritarian regimes. They often sort of want to go to traditional values, right? We all know the coding there. Drawing on hierarchical relationships, patriarchal family structures, unequal gender norms, scapegoating of particular groups of people. And it tends to be religious-based also. Okay, so I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and Cynthia attended this online. It was called the Summit for Religious Freedom, sponsored by Americans United for the Separation of Church and State. And they had a speaker there named John Fugelsang. Some of you may have read his book, Separation of Church and Hate. He is a comedian. He's not a theologian, he's not a historian, he's a comedian who sees what's happening and names it. And he's incredibly entertaining. He talks about Christian nationalism as a spray tan for authoritarianism, which I think is an amazing term, and and cut. Now we see what the picture is like, okay? So we're gonna talk about how to identify Christian nationalism. A lot of us feel like there's something icky religiously happening, but we can't really kind of name what it is. So this next part is going to help you name and identify the dynamics of Christian nationalism. I'm going to sit down for a second. I'll be sitting off and on. Okay, so this is a definition that we can use. A political ideology that seeks to merge Christian and American identities. And it ends up distorting the Christian faith, which is important to me and some of us, and distorting America's constitutional democracy, which is important to all of us, right? So fusion is the word you want to remember here. So this isn't super important for you to remember, but just a picture of the fact that there are flavors of Christian nationalism. It is not monolithic. So you've got some people who would be named as church statists, and they want a theocracy. Okay, and they're talking about scriptural literalism. They want this to be run by quote unquote Christians, okay, of the country. Then there's other people who are called by some scholars Judeo-Christianists who don't want a theocracy, but they think that Judeo-Christian culture should be primary and that civil rights are only accorded to people who believe in certain ways. Okay, so they're both awful. We're going to talk a little bit about statistics, and I'm going to highlight these two categories. I forgot to ask earlier, has anybody heard me give this spiel before? I think there's a couple of, okay, but it's not so you all will just have to hang tight for about 10 minutes who have heard this before, but the rest of it is different from what you've heard before.
Jenny, can you repeat what you just said?
Who heard me give this spiel before?
No, I just wanted to know Christian word I didn't hear.
I don't know. Oh, statist. Yeah, hold on. Oh, hold on. This is not my forte, y'all.
Are those groups regional?
I don't know how to move backwards. Hold on.
Maybe the lower level.
Yep, there we go. Statists, church statists, wanting to fuse church. That's not it? Well, hopefully it'll come back. I don't think you've missed anything major. Okay, so we're going to talk about some sociological studies, some demographics, and I'm going to talk about two groups of people, accommodators. Okay, so people who really think that Christianity should be like a prominent part of our culture, but don't think that it should dominate. Okay, but they're sympathetic with Christian nationalist ideals. And ambassadors is what you think it is. It's the people who are like, yes, this is the way to go, we're out in front of it, and that any other mode of thought should be completely excluded from civic life. Okay, so we're gonna look at those two groups, and this comes from sociologist Andrew Whitehead, who's a pretty prominent scholar in this field. So almost half of Americans embrace the tenets of Christian nationalism. Almost half. And you can see the breakdown between accommodators and ambassadors. When you move to white Christians, the number jumps to 65% of all white Christians are sympathetic to Christian nationalist ideals. And when you move to white evangelical Christians, we're at 75%. Okay. Will it be helpful for anyone to know a definition of the term evangelical?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think other words that you might use for the purposes of today would be fundamentalist, might be a good way to think about it. Conservative is a difficult word, but biblical literalists, Okay, people that think that everything that's on the page in the Bible is like a direct, specific word from God that doesn't really acknowledge a human hand in writing the Bible. Okay, that should probably give you enough. So the good news is that 25% of white evangelicals are rejectors, and some are resistors. Okay, 25% are rejectors and resistors. That's great news. Okay, that's positive news for us. Most of the people that would be in this 75% or any of the other ones, any of the other numbers, would not describe themselves as Christian nationalists. Okay, they understand that that is a term that is starting to be pejorative somewhat, or at least critical. So these folks are not going to wear "I'm a Christian nationalist" button, but they're going to probably be part of congregations that are regularly preaching some of those undercurrents of Christian nationalism. I'm right behind you first.
Do you have an idea of what percentage of the U.S. population this is?
Not with me, but I will give another statistic in a moment that might shed some light kind of in the direction you're going. And I also want to say, because we might have a sociologist in the room, but these are beliefs. Okay, so we're looking at beliefs and not behaviors for those of you who are, for whom that distinction is important academically. But go ahead, you were next, I think.
Oh, it was the same question.
Okay, great, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, at least it is for me, to understand the word evangelical
Yeah.
to begin with.
Sure,
Because that really is just sharing the gospel.
right, yeah,
And it really bothers me.
Yeah.
And Maria's heard me say this.
yeah,
Many times, that they have
it's been
misused.
co-opted, yeah.
Because I consider myself
Sure.
to be an evangelical Christian.
Yeah,
I'm always willing to tell, when the opportunity comes up, I'm willing to share the gospel.
right,
And it really annoys me on a very personal way.
yeah.
What they've done with that word.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some people feel that same way about Christian. Just the word Christian. Like, I introduce myself as a Christian when that comes up because I'm a pastor, but a lot of people have changed to like Christ follower, right? Something that just isn't the word Christian because it's been so heavily co-opted and warped. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, this is really kind of the only theology and doctrine that we'll do during this time together, but I think it's important for you to hear it. Some of the, one more statistic. So sympathizers by state, this is a 2024 study, but it was just recently got a lot of news. 48% of West Virginia would be sympathetic to Christian nationalist ideals.
That's believable.
Okay, right. So, and you can see what those other dark blue states are. They're all right there. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the doctrinal stuff behind it. New Apostolic Reformation is a movement that's been happening in the country for a while. It's a far-right Christian movement that advocates for spiritual warfare to bring about Christian dominion over all aspects of society and end or weaken the separation of church and state. Okay, so when I say spiritual warfare, I mean folks who believe that this is being fought out in terms of supernatural forces that are at work, demons, the devil, God. Okay, so this is like very directive in this. It was a fringe movement in the early 2000s, but it gained prominence with Trump's first election. And the Southern Poverty Law Center characterizes NAR as the greatest threat to American democracy that most people have never heard of. Okay, so I'm gonna, let's see, I'm trying to condense this. Okay. C. Peter Wagner, who's a church guru who helped articulate this theology, says, our theological bedrock is what has been known as dominion theology. It means that our divine mandate is to do whatever is necessary by the power of the Holy Spirit to retake the dominion of God's creation, which Adam forfeited to Satan in the Garden of Eden. It's nothing less than seeing God's kingdom coming and his will being done here on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, so that's one of the main guys, okay? The kingdom, so there are some ways to summarize the beliefs. The kingdom of God is advanced on earth through the church gaining dominion. Kingdom of God will come through the spiritual transformation of culture and society. The end times church will be the complete manifestation of Jesus on earth. And there is a strong focus in this movement on prophetic insight and supernatural manifestations. And these are some folks who support it. Right. Okay. But it gets a little more intense. Ready?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. You may have heard of the Seven Mountains Mandate. Some people use it in the singular. I say the plural. Seven Mountains Mandate, which is a dominionist Christian movement situated mostly within that New Apostolic Reformation. And it holds that there are 7 aspects of society that believers seek to dominate. And there are many graphics, and the order isn't important. But it says that believers, which is the word that they're using for a certain kind of Christian, are going to seek to dominate for God arts, government, media, education, religion, business, and family. So there are these 7 mountains of society that Christians are going to try to dominate in the belief that this is what God wants for the world, and that by doing so, this will bring about God's will on earth. Okay? Whew. And this originated in the 70s. Hang on a second, let me get through this part, Ron, and then raise your hand again. This originated in the 70s, but was just kind of revived like 25 years ago. And it came into prominence about 12 years ago after a book called Invading Babylon, the Seven Mountain Mandate was published, actually 13 years ago now. And here are some folks that support the Seven Mountains Mandate. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 more stats, and then Ron, I'll come to your question. So this doesn't totally get at the stat you were asking at, but it's a little bit closer. So there's a poll in January 2024 from Denison University, and it found that 41% of American Christians believe in Seven Mountains Mandate, okay? So that doesn't give you a percentage in the country, but 41% of American Christians believe in that Seven Mountains Mandate stuff. And of those folks, 42% of those folks believe that the United States should only award full citizenship to Christians. And that 42% number, that represents 33 million people in the United States believe that. Okay? Okay. Ron? No. Good. Okay. So now we're going to look at 4 key strategies. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, and maybe you're not comfortable even saying this.
Okay.
Congregations in this area
Oof,
that you
yeah.
would put into that category. Or maybe you don't say congregations, maybe.
I can give you some descriptions that might be universal, that a person would also find here, probably. Mm-hmm. Most of the congregation is white, which applies to many of our congregations. Most of that congregation would be white, would probably be on the larger side in an area, would probably involve what some people would refer to as like entertainment style religion. That does not mean that they're Christian nationalist. It's probably going to be a male preacher.
All 4 things in my church.
Yeah. I mean, and there are some churches that really subtly support this. So I have had people say, well, not my church, and I'll be like, do you know these couple of things about your church? So another sure giveaway is if there's a flag on the webpage. Or
American flag?
Yeah, an American flag. Or red, white, and blue stuff. Like I drove by a church sign the other day in another state that was Freedom Baptist Church, and it had red, white, and blue on the sign. So if you have a lot of prominence, the flag has a lot of prominence, that is probably also a church. So is that helpful maybe demographically? Okay.
I was hoping you'd name names.
Well, I'm being recorded. I'm not going to do that.
Read between the lines.
I'll tell you this though, my business card is back there, and if you have, my email is on it, and if you have questions and want to send me a website, this is like often a good way to research. I can probably see things because I'm theologically trained that other people wouldn't be able to see, and I'd be happy to say, yeah, that fits the profile. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've got 4 key strategies of Christian nationalism, and I'm going to give some examples of recent legislation in the state of West Virginia that reflects this particular kind of strategy. And we will we'll go back to these 4 at the end. So I'm going to talk about each 4, and then we'll, in a minute, have all of them on one slide if you want to take a picture. Protection. We're going to try to protect Christianity. Often this is under the guise of religious freedom, which sounds like it would protect all religions or people who do not practice a religion, but really it means protecting a particular kind of Christianity. One of those was a bill that went through this, that was introduced this year, prohibiting the interruption of religious services. Can anybody guess where that might have come from? Yeah, you want to say? Anybody?
COVID.
Sorry?
COVID.
Not COVID, no.
There's a protest.
Minneapolis, yeah. Okay, so protection, we're going to protect Christianity, right?
From what?
Yeah, right, I know. No, it's from an invisible, it's a manufactured enemy, right? It's the same as, cisgender heterosexual white men are under attack in the country. It's totally false, right? Okay, it's manufactured. Okay, insertion of Christianity into public life. This often comes in relation to schools, and we're going to spend some time later talking about schools. But 2 things I'll name now. Is anybody familiar with that Aitken Bible bill that went through this past year?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is where, I could give a 15-minute spiel just on this, but to put a particular version of the Bible in every 4th, 8th, and 10th grade social studies classroom in the state. It's called the Aitken Bible because it's the first Bible that was published in the United States. I should have put a picture up. The front, every lawmaker was given one this year. Wow. On the Day of the Bible at the state legislature, hosted in conjunction with the Secretary of State's office. And the front of the Bible says, First American Bible. So, fusion, right? I don't want my Bible to say American on it because Christianity is not just an American phenomenon, okay? It's a global religion. If we're starting to associate one country with it, we're screwed, okay? Another attempt at insertion is at a school board level at this point, which is allowing time, off-campus time for students to get religious instruction and have it counted as instructional time for that student. Okay, so it's LifeWise Academy is based in Ohio. It's a conservative Christian curriculum taught to students, which is exclusive of many parts, many kinds of people in our society, has very strict social ideals, and school boards are being approached to count it not as an excused absence, but as instructional time for students to get bussed out of the school to a place where they go and have LifeWise Academy curriculum instruction, go back to school, and they're not even absent. Wow. Insertion, okay? So that's insertion of Christianity in public institutions. Okay, fusion. Yep. Anybody want to say anything about either of those bills? Are you familiar with those this past year? Yeah, do you want to say anything about it?
No.
No, don't. Yeah, go ahead.
The Charlie Kirk Day bill.
Yeah.
I just want to say it doesn't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I heard that a lot.
Yeah.
I resent it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was wild on the Senate floor, the West Virginia Senate floor this year. I do a lot of advocacy and am looped into all of this, so I'm I did not pay attention to bills like this like 10 years ago. Okay, so yeah, did you have a question about?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, whenever we talk about like faith being on curriculum for instructional time, does this not, I mean, are we not doing with Hope Scholarship subsidizing schools that use instructional time that is faith-based?
Yep.
So our tax dollars are going to.
That is correct. That is correct. Yep. Okay, so the Charlie Kirk Day debate was really, conversation on the floor was really wild. I'm going to point you to a TikTok channel later that has excerpts of that, but it starts with like, Charlie Kirk was a great patriot and a great Christian. First sentence out of the gate, okay? So there's a lot to say about that, but fusion is what I'm pointing to in this moment, okay? There was also this wild bill called the Judea and Samaria bill. And this is, we're not going to refer to Palestine as Palestine. We're going to use the terms that they want us to use, which is Judea and Samaria, ancient terms for what we would probably call the Holy Land largely, but Israel and Palestine. And it took up 30 minutes of debate in the Senate Judiciary Committee this year. They passed like pretty sweeping changes to health insurance in like 3 minutes in that same committee, and took 30 minutes to talk about this, okay? Had a guest speaker from some organization, I don't know, that came and talked about why this is so important. Well, this is also another form of religious nationalism, which is happening in Israel, right? Okay, different kind of religious nationalism. Okay. Last one I'm going to talk about is coercion. Okay, this is when we take ideals or doctrine from high control religion and try to impose it on all people. Okay, so you get those in terms of drag shows, locker room bills, which are anti-trans. Okay, anything that's trying to clamp down on bodily autonomy, whether explicitly or implicitly. That is attempting a coercive relationship between a certain kind of Christianity and the rest of the population. Okay, yep.
And that doesn't matter whether it's actually happening in your area or not, right?
What do you mean?
I mean, the idea is we're just going to throw this out there, and there may be no reason to do it other than to create an environment of threat.
Yes, locker room bill is a great example. Bathroom bills are a great example, right? We're just going to manufacture a problem, introduce legislation, make people think it's a problem, and then have this on the books.
What's the fear?
What's that?
Fear.
Yeah, it's fear. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do right now, any questions about any of that so far? Okay. What we're going to do right now is we are going to look at some recent developments. Every time I do one of these, it's like the last week something happened, right? I'm constantly changing the slides because it's developing all the time. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
SB 590.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you say anything about it.
No, I did not say anything about that. The adult cabaret drag shows, banning drag shows.
Oh, okay, that was,
Yeah.
I didn't recognize that.
Yeah, no, and because
Okay.
that's the language that's used in the legislation. So it's always like in the bill this year, for the third, I think, year in a row, there was a human trafficking bill. People heard about this. It's actually an anti-immigrant bill. So it comes in under the guise of we want to prevent human trafficking, but then it clamps down on anybody that's transporting somebody who's undocumented. So if you're taking your undocumented neighbor to the doctor or to the grocery store and you're stopped, you are able to be charged with human trafficking. Okay? So it's like all this language, I get really intense about this, sorry. It's all this language that's intended to hide its true intent. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Are all these bills were they proposed and debated, or did they all pass?
Some of them were introduced and some of them passed. And if this was March, I could tell you which one, but right now I can't. So you can go to the state legislature website, and there's a way that you can just very quickly enter a bill number and see where it ended up. Yeah.
Or use AI.
You could do that.
Source.
Yeah.
Are all these bills in West Virginia?
These are all West Virginia bills. And they're just a handful. I mean, 2 years ago, 94 bills were introduced in the legislature that involved either religion or a religious agenda.
Did
Yeah.
these bills come out of ALEC?
Many of them did, yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about recent developments. This was just published this week. More and more people in the country have now heard or read about Christian nationalism. So you'll see that in February 2024, at least a little bit, 45% of the country had heard about Christian nationalism. As of last month, it had jumped to 59%. That's just to say it's getting in the water now. People are hearing more about it, okay? Okay, and part of that is because of dudes like this guy. So he's a problem. There's a lot we could say about Pete Hegseth, but I think for now, it's just to say that he's using this religious language of dominionism to try to direct the military of the United States to an end that, as he would define it, is spiritual.
As in quoting a biblical phrase from the movie Pulp Fiction.
From Pulp Fiction, yeah, yeah.
Which is?
Yeah, sort of on the same level as 2 Corinthians, right? If you're gonna quote it, you probably should know it. Okay, so huge problems there, huge. And he has an immense amount of power, okay? Cultural power, at the very least. Persuasion over the culture of the military. I think the first weekend after he stopped using, after he started using those terms about dominion and end times and bringing about God's will on earth, the calls skyrocketed from military to support organizations to say, we are hearing this from our commanders, and this was all over the country. So it is a very top-down culture that's being implemented, okay? Let's see, what is happening tomorrow? Anybody know about this? Anybody want to say anything about this? Okay, if you, Cynthia, did you want to say anything about it?
When I found out about that, back when they had the faith leaders breakfast, that's when we came up with, like, we gotta do something.
Yeah.
And we wanted to initially have the big blowout, like this weekend, and then it turned out not good because of WVU graduation.
Sure.
We kept this, and then we just moved the big blowout, giant assembly of everybody at the amphitheater. Hopefully people will still remember, rededicate 250, and
Yeah.
It's being funded by federal dollars, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Cynthia's talking about an event that's happening in 2 weeks, and I'll have information about that a little bit later. Let me tell you a little bit about Rededicate 250, okay? So this is happening on the National Mall tomorrow. We are gathering to prepare for the nation's 250th birthday with scripture, testimony, prayer, and rededication of our country as one nation to God. This is like a 9-hour thing.
Yes, it's 9 hours.
These are 3 pillars. This is on the webpage about this event. These are 3 pillars of the day. We're going to talk about miracles that made us as a country, miracles still happening in our midst, and this new birth of faith and freedom. Now, I say all that to say, like, I'm going to say that I believe a miracle can happen. Okay, so I'm not opposed to the use of the word miracle. Was the birth of the United States a miracle? I don't think so, probably. Okay?
Expansion of white.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's taking these terms that all sorts of Christians believe in and manipulating them for their own culture that they're creating. Okay?
Are they going to have the turquoise in the reflection?
Yeah, I don't know if is the reflection pool done now? I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not going to.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So some of the speakers at this event are Speaker Mike Johnson, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and a number of other folks that, yeah, the guy, I didn't look him up. Jonathan Roumie, R-O-U-M-I-E. Would someone look him up? I didn't look him up.
For a look.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he is going for a
He
look.
could be from the program,
Chosen.
Chosen. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay. And this is also something to know. Eric Metaxas wrote a book on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. This is probably going to be really niche. That's not the Dietrich Bonhoeffer book to read. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pacifist in Nazi Germany, a pastor. He's a tremendous theologian. That guy is not the guy you want to read about him. Okay. Did anybody find him? Did you find him? Yeah, what'd you find him?
Jonathan Roumie?
He's an actor.
Yes, he's an actor who plays Jesus.
Okay, who plays Jesus? Well, so again, you can see the fusion imagery right here. Like if we're going for the look of Jesus and we got the flag behind us, we're trying to say those two things are. Bishop Robert Barron. I actually don't know some of these people, but you've got Catholic bishops. There will be a rabbi that's speaking. Okay, so it's a lot. Yeah, Cynthia.
Bishop Barron is the person that accompanied our representative, Riley Moore.
Oh, to CCOT?
the State of the Union speech.
Oh, State of the Union. Okay, delightful.
Oh, who cares?
Yeah. Okay. And this is just a little bit more about it. Join with neighbors and friends from every state in the Union in giving thanks and praise to God for 250 years of His providence for the United States, in praying that God bless and protect America for the next 250 years, and in solemnly rededicating our country as one nation under God. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's more than an event. It's a once-in-a-lifetime national moment. Okay. Okay.
Let's hope that's the truth.
Yeah. So these are the 4 key strategies we're seeing at work. And I just want to offer one moment for anybody to name something else that you have seen happen recently and maybe try to link it to one of the strategies. Yeah.
In your mountains,
Uh-huh.
I am seeing a lot of advertising on streaming media for merging, doing that fusion, which is probably where I've seen Rooney in these ads for all these Christians, the story of Christ, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, more than I've ever seen before, and certainly not tied to a holiday. These are getting into the mainstream.
Yeah. Yep. Anything other examples you want to offer, or have we had enough examples? Yeah. Okay. We are going to talk about one more little section, and then we're going to stand up and take a break for a minute, because this is a lot. Okay. So in terms of what's coming next, a couple of things about that. As far as legislation in the state, we actually have a little bit of an advantage because West Virginia copy-pastes legislation from other states. So when Oklahoma or Texas or any number of states, Florida, try to pass bills, we have a couple of years before it's done there until it happens here. That is to our advantage in terms of organizing to oppose those bills, okay? So there will be a whole flurry of bills that continue to come. They get introduced, they don't get any traction, and then they just kind of keep being before the lawmakers. And I'm gonna talk about a couple of those in a minute. What I want to focus on, because I think it seems people have wide interest in it, is what's gonna happen in the schools. Okay, do we have any retired educators? Yeah, right, okay. This is every gathering in West Virginia. There are teachers or retired educators, okay? So I wanna talk a little bit about the playbook that is in place to accomplish any number of those 4 strategies in schools. Okay, so Project Blitz, has anybody heard of Project Blitz? It's a coalition of over 40 groups of the Christian right, and it includes the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation. Project Blitz made a manual made several manuals publicly available a number of years ago, and then they went underground. They took them down. But there are still copies that circulate that people were able to archive before they were deleted from websites and such. So they are a playbook, often with bill templates, many of which we've seen introduced here. And it includes a coordinated strategy of flooding state legislatures with a gradually intensifying series of bills to establish a biblically based society with a concentration on controlling public schools. Okay, so what that looks like, there's a couple of things. One, someone mentioned Hope Scholarship earlier. So we're going to try to weaken public schools by defunding them. We're going to defund them by allowing things like voucher or school choice. Okay, so Hope Scholarship is what's doing that in West Virginia. So if you can weaken them, you can control them better. Okay, so that's sort of one angle that's happening as we're going to try to weaken public schools. One of the things, this will not seem to connect, but it does, there's a formula for school closure in the state. Some people would like to see that formula change so that we're not closing so many public schools, but there's a formula that the State Board of Ed has to adhere to. Watch the opposition to the formula change. That just seems like kind of a neutral kind of bill, right? We're talking about statistics and numbers. It's to weaken public schools, okay?
For what reason?
For control, to be able to control it. Either either these folks are going to destroy public schools or weaken them to be able to control them.
What's the gain for their future?
They can control public narrative when they control public schools. You can indoctrinate children.
Why they let their own children indoctrinated for what? Right?
To,
Keep them uneducated.
yeah.
Suck the breath out of them?
Sorry?
Suck the breath out.
I mean,
Or to
yeah.
teach an agenda.
Yeah, there's an agenda. Yeah.
Reshape history. Yeah.
Human robots.
Yeah.
What was the thing about posting the 10 Commandments?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, there are bills about, we have a bill that passed about putting "In God We Trust" posters in every public school. And this is how these bills are phrased. When you read them, it says something like, every school district shall accept donations of signs that read, "In God We Trust." If you have a bill that's written that way, someone is waiting in the wings to make those donations, right? And so that's how the Aitken Bible bill worked. Schools shall accept donations for 4th, 8th grade, and 10th grade classrooms. Well, there's a whole foundation set up to inexpensively get those Bibles into public schools. Okay?
When it says the shall accept them, is there any discretion about what happens with them once they're accepted?
It depends on the bill. It depends on how it's worded.
The county
Yeah.
Board of Ed.
Well, is shall the same as must? You must do
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall is must. Okay. So I'm going to talk about one more thing about schools, which is, as we talked about, turning schools into centers of Christian nationalist indoctrination, again, under the guise of promoting religious freedom. So there's 3 phases of legislation that are part of this playbook to get introduced to control this narrative in public schools. Phase 1 focuses on symbolic gestures that are hard to oppose. So the "In God We Trust" signs falls in that category, okay? Because people just be like, it's the motto of the country. Why can't we put that in our public schools, right? Okay. So that's phase 1, is these like symbolic gestures. Phase 2 is more direct. It's like creating biblical literacy curriculum requirements. And that will be like, it will be phrased neutrally. This is a historic document. We need our students to be well-versed in Scripture. I'm a pastor, and I'm telling you that's what churches are for. If you want your children to be well-versed in Scripture, that happens in churches. I don't want teachers who are not theologically trained teaching my children Scripture. You know? I mean, no, I don't want that. That's why part of the reason that like Christians should be committed to having the separation of church and state, because it affects Christianity as well, right? Okay. Or another in this phase 2 is like a Christian Heritage Week. Okay? Okay. Phase 3 is really intense. And I'm going to read you this language. It legalizes discrimination against those whose action or very being offends the sensibility of conservative Christians. We don't have to name the groups. We know. We know what that means. Okay. Yep. Legalizes discrimination against those whose action or very being offends the sensibility of conservative Christians. Okay, I know, it's a lot. Okay, I have this to say right before our break though. We're gonna have a stand up and stretch break. As awful as all of it sounds, it's awful. It's not unprecedented, and it's not unique to the United States, okay? This is also to our advantage because it has been studied, tactics have been developed, and we can engage in those, okay? So we're still finding our way a little bit, but you all are already part of making a change. And I'm gonna give you so many opportunities to be involved and engaged in different kinds of resistance after the break. What we're gonna do before we talk about how to resist, we're just gonna breathe collectively for a moment, okay? So go ahead and just take a deep inhale and exhale hard. Yep, through your mouth. Deep inhale and exhale hard. Good, one more. Deep inhale, exhale hard. Okay, are we ready to resist? Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna make you aware in this next little bit of a number of things you can do. Some are things that you can do right in this room before we leave, okay? Some of them are larger things that you can be a part of. I'm gonna introduce you to those things, and then we're gonna spend some time afterward talking about those things, okay? So the first thing, we're just gonna kind of see where the energy takes us once we get there. But before we talk about resisting, we do need to look at why people obey, okay? Why people obey. I'm going to just ask a number of volunteers. You can just shout out one volunteer to read one line. Can someone read number 1?
Habit is we are just used to it.
Thank you. 2?
Fear. It's the fear of being fired or repressed more than actual repression, because you can't fire everyone.
Right. 3?
Moral obligation. A lot of us are used to obeying authority.
I think that's a hard one, right? We're taught to obey. Okay, number 4.
Self-interest, we hope it'll work out for us, even knowing it may be bad for others.
Yeah. 5? This is like an eye test. Can anybody in the back see it? Okay. 5 is psychological identification with the ruler. People often feel an emotional tie with the authoritarian, experiencing their victories and defeat as their own. 6.
Zones of indifference. We just don't care.
Just don't care.
That's me.
Right. For any number of reasons. Exhaustion, overwhelm, right? Like no bandwidth, life responsibilities, any number of reasons. Okay, 7, the last one.
Absence of self-confidence. We feel, sorry, it's on my phone. We feel inadequate, I feel inadequate right now, to make our own decisions.
Thank you. That was brilliant. She took a picture of the slide and then enlarged it on her phone. Perfect. So it's just good to say this, because we might look at people we know and say, well, why aren't they resisting, right?
Yeah.
And it is a journey that we all come to, right? And we come to it in steps, a lot of people. Some people jump right in, but some people, it's like a big deal to go to your first protest, right? You don't know, you've heard about protests in other places. Is it gonna get violent? Are there gonna be law enforcement officers? Do I need to write numbers in Sharpie on my arm, right? Like, we don't know, and all contexts are different. So just to say, lots of people are on journeys, and so hopefully there'll be something today that you hear that can allow you to take one step or information that you can offer to other people to take one step, or if you want to jump 5 steps ahead, that'll be there too. Okay, so the first kind of set of things I'm going to talk about have to do with increasing your awareness. So first category is feeding your mind, okay? This is important. One is to, if you are a social media person, follow BIPOC and LGBTQ plus leaders and organizers. My top 2 that I would give you are these folks who you can look up on Instagram or Facebook right now and start following them. Lene Vinay does this incredible thing every Friday called Parking Lot Pimpin'. She sits in a parking lot and she breaks down all sorts of current events, often bringing in history and culture, a political commentator, but also with a great dose of, she has joy, she has fashion stuff incorporated, she's really interesting. Ashley Woodard Henderson, I took a training with Ashley in August at the Highlander Center in Tennessee. She is a movement architect, by which I mean like she's on the national group of people who introduced No Kings and kind of makes direction for that. She has, both of them have very accessible commentary on what's going on. And I am specifically recommending to you 2 Black women because A, I think we need to listen to Black women. And B, if you don't follow Black content creators or queer content creators, that if you do that, your algorithm is going to change and you're going to see more of it. So it's really important. Like I said, these are my top 2. I will give you a link to a resource later that has additional content creators, but I'm going to fly through them pretty quickly right now. If you want religious commentators or content creators, Bishop Yvette Flunder and Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis. Bishop Flunder's sermons are amazing. You can find them on YouTube. And Jackie Lewis is pretty prolific on social media. So those are from a Christian point of view. And Bishop Flunder left her faith tradition and began a new one. She's queer and there was not space for her in her tradition. So she started a new one and it's pretty tremendous. For other accounts you might want to follow, has anybody heard of Black by God, the West Virginian? It's the only Black-owned news outlet in West Virginia, published by Crystal Good, who's a poet and a publisher. She's amazing. And then 2 other accounts you might want to follow are Our Moral Imperative and Decolonize Myself. And again, if you follow those, it'll just start to change your algorithm and you'll find other stuff too. By the way, you're welcome to continue taking pictures, but you will get my slides. And I will give you links to where these are clickable online. But again, this is the thing you can do right now, is to follow these things, and I will not be offended if you do that while I talk. If you are looking for faith-based resistance movements, Christians Against Christian Nationalism is great. It came out of the Baptist Joint Commission on Religious Liberty. So our organization has affiliated with them. And then for, if you have clergy in your life, you might want to tell them about the Clergy Emergency League. There is, nope, that's going to take too long. Okay, then in the continuing in Feed Your Mind, there are some educational classes that are available to you. That if you follow Justice and Jubilee, which I'll give you a means of doing before we end, you can find out more about. One is Disrupting Empire, Resisting Christian Nationalism Through Nonviolence. So this is the 6-hour workshop that I mentioned to you that Cynthia attended in the fall. And it includes a lot more about interpersonal communication with people who are Christian nationalist or sympathetic to those ideals. And does a lot more exploration of why nonviolence. We also do Disarming the Bible. We have a module of 5, I think, classes that are asynchronous. You can watch the videos, and then there's a leader's guide that we produce. That's all free. It's on YouTube and our website. This module is specifically about faith and empire and an examination of empire in the Hebrew scriptures and then the New Testament, and where empire plays a role in the history of God's people and why Christianity is not empire. Then we have a whole webpage. I've been promising you links. I'm gonna clunkily go, I think, to, okay, hold on. This is something I don't know how to do. Hold, please. Huh, I did it. Okay, this is our website. If you grab one of these rack cards from the back, there's a QR code and it will take you to this site that I'm about to walk you through. But some of the information is also on the back of this rack card, which is on the table back there. So we have a number of things. We have information about that Disarming the Bible class, and we have ways that you can get, by the way, this class was intended for non-Christians. It's intended to say, how can you identify when scripture is being weaponized? So it's not taught to be faith formation, it's taught to be informational, which is what the Christian Nationalists will say, but I don't mean it that way. So the people who made the videos are two clergy in Charleston that are friends of mine, and then there's also on there a quick guide for how to identify the weaponization of scripture. What are some moves that you see people make without knowing scripture? Okay, so you can identify that and respond if you choose. And then we also have the curriculum available for that. Okay, then we have, whenever we have one of these Disrupting Empire workshops coming up, we put information there for registration. And then this is really what you want. So there are so many resources. You could go down days worth of rabbit holes. One of them is through the library on the Christians Against Christian Nationalism website, which you can get to by clicking this button. One is a curated list that the leaders of Justice and Jubilee have made, and I'm going to click on that in a second for you. And another is for people who are looking for faith formation specifically. We've linked to some sermons and classes by West Virginia clergy. We know particularly in rural parts of the state, there are people who really believe that there is something to Christianity and the love of Jesus and the way that we treat other people if we say we follow Jesus, but they don't have any resources where they live, right? Maybe their preacher is not talking that way. And so this is a way to get resources into the hands for people who are seeking it, that want to hear sermons and studies that come from clergy in West Virginia. So I am going to just real quick click on this Justice and Jubilee, and you can see what you get. Okay, that's not what I thought we were clicking to, but it's this one. Justice and Jubilee recommends. And we have curated a list for you of people that we have vetted and follow. You can get all of Justice and Jubilee's information linked up there, but we have content creators, so those ones I showed you on the slides, resources for faith formation, mutual aid stuff, groups to connect with, podcasts, books, documentaries. We've just kind of gone through it and done some of the sifting for you. So if you, tends to be a high level of trust among Appalachians. So if you want Appalachians who have vetted this stuff for you, it's all there for you. So again, you can get to all of that through this QR code. That's the easiest way to access all those resources. Oh, I did it. Okay, that was the Feed Your Mind section. Now we are going to go through the Building Muscle section, as soon as I can get my clicker back. Okay, Building Muscle. So how many of you have ever participated in a boycott or a strike? Oh, excellent, I love to see that. Okay. Has anybody done any of those over the last year? Okay, tell me one of the ones that you did. Target, okay, because of their repealing of their anti-DEI stuff. Okay, what else? Anybody else? Starbucks, right, okay, good. Amazon, thank you, yes. Yeah. Yes. I will say, as a person who used Amazon because it was easy, I got rid of Prime, and I barely use it. I use it 3 times a year now, so really getting rid of Prime is a good step in that direction. Others. Anybody cancel your Disney subscription? It's one you may have heard of. There was a mass blackout the week of Black Friday into Cyber Tuesday last year, and there was the May Day strike, general strike this year. Okay, so really the next one really to be paying attention to is when a general strike is launched in the United States. We are not there yet, but all of these boycotts or strikes or walkouts are building muscle for something that is larger, so that when the call comes to participate in it, we can then gum up the works in a really significant way. Building muscle is to gum up the works. If you are wondering how a boycott or a strike might do that, we can have a separate conversation about capitalism and the relationship of capitalism to Christian nationalism. Basically, the people in charge are really rich and they're profiting from us, and we need to let them know that they can't always do that, okay? Any number, let's see, I once heard someone say to practice resistance daily. And that one way to do that is to do like little micro resistance. So like going in a store and taking something off one shelf and putting it 3 aisles over. Okay? Because it helps you break the rules. Okay? I'm not advocating like stealing anything. If you do that, that's your thing, whatever. But ways that you can practice not obeying, practice disobedience. Obviously, we don't want to hurt other folks, but there are small ways that we can do that kind of stuff, and it's building muscle so that when the big ways come, we are more ready to participate. Okay. Okay, and then under this, I also want to talk about finding community. And so I'm going to mention it is so important to be with other people. Does anybody feel like a little bit better knowing that there are people in this room that you don't know that also share these ideals? Yeah, it's so important to get together with other people. So Cynthia was talking about this rally that we're having 2 weeks from tomorrow, May 31st. It's going to start with a march at the farmers market at 3 p.m. down to the amphitheater. And it's a number of faith leaders in the area who have received an invitation from Mountaineers Indivisible Citizen Action to come and talk about how our traditions orient us towards social justice and the flourishing of all people. The reason to that is to raise awareness about Christian nationalism, but not in the way that we're doing here. It's more to say there can be a relationship between faith or religion and being a good citizen, but it doesn't look like fusion. And that's going to be the goal of this. There's going to be face painting, there's going to be balloons, there's going to be tabling, there's going to be food truck, there's going to be a lot of music. I'm part of a group called Beer and Hymns, and we're going to play at the end of it. We're going to play our protest, small version of our protest list.
What time are you meeting at the?
So it's 3 o'clock at the
farmers market?
3 o'clock at the farmers market, and then 3:30 at the amphitheater.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything else about that, Cynthia?
Well, everything's free except the food trucks.
Got it. Thank you. The other place to find community, there are many, but those Disrupting Empire workshops that we host really also create community and relationships. I hope that you will come away from today knowing the name and possibly having the contact information of someone in this room that you have not met before today. We're going to get there. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Exhale fast. Great. Okay, now we're going to look at things you can help build in West Virginia. Okay, I'm going to give you a number of options, explain them to you, and then we're going to have time to talk about those options. Okay, the first one is a legislative watchers program that Justice and Jubilee created for this last legislative session called Keep Watch West Virginia. Cynthia was part of that, so I'm going to invite her do you want to come up front and just say a little bit about what it was and what we did?
So I was one of the legislative managers because I'm not a person that could create social media. There were different different people had different roles. And so I watched a kind of really nauseating amount of West Virginia legislature. I began it after I started out with watching floor stuff, and then I realized I think there's more action in committees. So I watched, I ended up watching mostly judicial committees, and both in the Senate and in the House. Some really wild stuff, although I did try to catch the floor, at least a portion of it, to hear the prayers every day. And the prayers were, well,
Bonkers.
they were pretty over the top sometimes. Not a single person, and I tried to tune into that floor session for the House of Delegates, mostly is what I watched in terms of floor sessions. I think I caught almost every single one at the beginning, and no one ever was called on to lead the prayer except for Christian ministers, or sometimes a House member would lead it. There were no Jewish faith leaders that were invited. I think I saw one Catholic clergy. And one of the things that was really remarkable about it was their prayers would, you know, what you would think, like bless us in our work and make us wise and stuff. But quite a few times there was language such as, Lord, we know you have anointed us and selected us for this position, so if you thought it was your vote, you're wrong. I was kind of shocked by that, that they had been chosen by God to do this, and there was a lot of very over-the-top things also said in the committee meetings. The committee meetings were interesting because there are so few Democrats that there would be, say, one Democrat, and there would be seven other legislators were Republicans. So you pretty much heard one side, and very often, if they did have witnesses, they only called witnesses from one side. And there was so much immersion of basically religious principles, quotes from the Bible. I watched the Judea and Samaria one, and it was interesting because they were, bringing in the Bible, of course, repeatedly, but also the Roman Empire, which was interesting, going back
Which
to
they used wrong, by the way, but yeah.
Like what the names were then, and therefore the names should be that now. Like nowhere else in the world is that true, but it should be true. And they would say repeatedly things like, "There is no West Bank. There is no Gaza." There, and the thing is, you're thinking, why would that be important? What the name is? And it was about how these would appear in any West Virginia documents.
Yeah.
Guess from here on out. And I'm thinking, do those names appear in? Do we have a lot to do with the West Bank or whatever here? Anyway, it was very interesting. And then I would try to fill out things about instances on a little form of what I identified. Obviously, Jenny and other people would recognize more than I did, but as best I could, things that I thought probably were instances of Christian nationalism, and it just happened every day.
Yeah.
And while watching it, I realized I was becoming more attuned to it, as you would imagine also.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. We had 11 or 12 people that were part of this Keep Watch program, and the end goal of the program was to put excerpts of Christian nationalist rhetoric being used by lawmakers on our TikTok channel. So there's a repository of like maybe 12 videos right now. I mean, there were way more than 12 instances, but that were videos that were kind of interesting enough to put on here. We had a number of roles, as Cynthia said, in the program. Legislative watchers. Cynthia and a man named Paul Henneberger, who some of you may know, watched all of it. These two people watched 60 days worth of floor sessions and committee meetings. It was an amazing effort, truly amazing. They need help. We need more, okay?
I say one thing, Jen.
Yeah.
I think you would find it's aggravating, but you felt like at the end of this legislative session, you learned so much about how things really work.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Cynthia and Paul have great things to say about their experience, but it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, so we had 2 watchers, Those watchers filled out a form that was a timestamp of the instance of Christian nationalism. We had other people go in and extract that from the archive video on the state legislature website and turn it into TikToks. We did not have a TikTok account prior to January 15. So we knew that we had no reach. So we recruited content creators from around West Virginia who talk about things that might, who had followings that might be interested in this. And so we went to 1,000 watchers, 1,000 followers in a couple of weeks, and had a lot of engagement. So our goal is to say to West Virginians, this is what's happening. This is a bite-sized, digestible video to show you the kinds of things that your lawmakers are saying. So the Keep Watch program, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, is it only TikTok?
We only have it on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there plans to maybe expand that a bit?
Would you like to help us expand it? Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I don't have TikTok on my phone because of the new, the new stuff. Yeah, thank you. I would love to talk about that. Okay, and I know. Okay, another one that we're going to do. We're going to have a yard sign campaign. This doesn't pertain to everybody in this room, but we are going to have yard signs. We'll be having them at the May 31 event that say Christians against Christian nationalism. We want people to put them in your yard. They will come with a guide about how to respond to questions you may get because that sign is in your yard. We also are looking for people who are in touch with groups of people that might be interested in these kinds of signs. For example, there's like Kanawha County Democratic Women or something. They want a bunch of these signs, okay? So if you're part of a group where you think a bunch of people might take signs, we would love to have that. We want to start across the state, people who are Christian saying, I am opposed to what's going on here, okay? That's another thing that you can do. Another thing that we're looking for is researchers, volunteer researchers. We would like to have some people dig into Project 2025. We get asked all the time, what does Project 2025 say about this? Our bandwidth is limited for the kinds of things that we can do, so we need helpers to research that.
Hey, pause you here for
Ron.
a moment, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Micah has something called a lecture series. I'm not going to go into it, but it's something that's been really good. It turns out that next month we're going to have a gentleman talk specifically on this.
Super.
Project 2025.
Good.
So if you're getting content from Micah, keep your ears open. I think it's June 18th, I believe, that this is going to occur. It's going to occur at the Church of the Brethren. But this is going to be the topic.
Great.
Project 2025.
So that can be one of your research assignments if you want to research. What I'm trying to say is there are roles for people that are public. There are roles that you can do at your computer in your home. You don't have to be a person that's marching with the best sign, okay, to help fuel the resistance. Okay. We need to do some organizing around public education. I want to give you one example. This year, for the first time, a bill cropped up in the West Virginia State Legislature to put chaplains in public schools. Yeah, can we just say, for Pete's sake? 1, 2, 3. For Pete's sake. Right, okay. I don't want this. I don't want this to happen. There are a number of reasons I don't want that to happen. A, any child or family that is not Christian, right? Like, why would this be in a public school? This is not separation of church and state.
I mean, what's ridiculous is that there are schools that have a counselor once a week in their classroom.
Right.
Or they go to 3 different schools
Yep.
and they want to, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and so they're saying, oh, there's this weakness that we're going to fill, and it will be helpful. Because the bill says they can't proselytize. Okay, so the way the bill was worded this year, which did not pass, it did not get any traction, was that school boards can accept volunteer chaplains to serve in public schools. The language that they use is certified chaplain. Guess what doesn't exist out in the world? The only thing that exists is a board certified chaplain, That is someone who has gone through rigorous and extensive training to be a hospital chaplain, a military chaplain, and we can talk about should there be military chaplains, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. Military chaplain and prison chaplains, okay? People in those 3 institutions have to be board certified. Lots of exams, papers, residencies, hours you accrue, okay. But we're gonna put chaplains in public schools that have none of that, okay, to be helpful to students. I have a problem with that. I will tell you that one of the organizations in Oklahoma that was fueling this movement developed a certification program for chaplains that was only $999. And you could pay your money and get a certificate to say that you are a certified chaplain. This was from an Oklahoma lawmaker. Talked about this, okay? So, there's some organizing that needs to be done around public schools because these changes are coming quickly. That's another opportunity to get involved. Another thing that we are working on that we need help with is having digital communities. So we've kind of kicked around the idea of having a Signal chat, for example, for people who want to oppose Christian nationalism in West Virginia. Raise your hand if you're on Signal. We got a handful. Would you be interested in a chat like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So you don't wake up some morning and there's some military person at your door.
Yeah, it's a secure messaging platform for people who don't know it. It's encrypted. None of them are entirely secure, but it's.
Secretary of Defense prove that?
Yes. Yeah, you have to. It's best not to communicate those plans when you have a journalist in your group, but okay.
The thing about the difference between Facebook and Signal, I'm going to go off topic here as I always do. Part of what's going on, she mentioned those mountains, and I didn't remember what they were, but I am positive one of those mountains is communication. Billionaires control much of the communications. Facebook. A billionaire controls Washington Post, and I'm sure there's other things. Signal is not. Signal is a non-profit organization. So it may not be perfect in terms of being a military communication, but it's something that is most likely going to defend its users and not roll over to the government.
We can hope. It's our best hope. Maybe not our best, but close. What we need is admins for a Signal chat and a Facebook group. There are lots of people that would like to start a Facebook group for like-minded people that specifically is about Christian nationalism. People who come to events like this and are so grateful to be in the presence of other people who think like them. But we need a couple of admins. Basically, that's not something that we need volunteers to do that. So that's another option. And then this is my Hail Mary. We really need a digital media strategist. We need someone who is skilled and experienced in saying to do like a digital audit of an organization and help us optimize our digital communication strategies, because Justice and Jubilee and some of our partner organizations do tremendous work, and our bandwidth limits us, our capacity limits us from letting other people know about it. So this is if you know someone, I would love a recommendation. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is connect with each other and conspire a little bit. Hopefully that will allow you to take some of the depression of the first half or anxiety of the first half and channel it into some activity. So we're going to break into groups, and the options that I have given you, and we will invite other options as well, is if you're interested in knowing more about the Legislative Watchers program, Keep Watch, that's an option. If you think that you might be able to help with the yard sign campaign, by which I mean like you're in a group of people who might be interested in having those yard signs. If you're interested in doing some research on Project 2025, if you want to be talking with other people who are also concerned about public school legislation and boards of eds, If you're interested in digital community building, we're going to break up into these groups. And we're also going to take other options. So you may have ideas in your mind, or there may be something you're working on that you could use the help of other people on. So we're going to take about 15 minutes to break up into groups to talk about these. I know that soon, in the next couple of months, a Singing Resistance Morgantown is going to be developed that has a whole body of, like a new body of protest music with a songbook that's being introduced across the country, and these singing resistance groups are cropping up. You may have heard, if you watched videos of protests outside the hotel in Minneapolis where ICE agents were staying, you may have heard some of those songs. So it's those same kinds of songs. So that is an option for music that is coming.
Okay.
Does anybody else have another option they want to put on the table? Okay.
Rich has got one.
Oh.
It's not an option, but I was wondering the way you talked about public school system being co-opted. I guess it's a smaller set, but it seems like scouts would be like real prey for this.
I think that's right. Okay, let's see. What do I want to say about that? Well, Scouts USA. They're Scouts USA now because they have Girl Scouting troops. But yes, I think it's fertile ground. My guess is, I want to say, having worked with scout troops in churches that I've been part of, I think there are enough structural checks that I don't think that would happen wholesale to the organization, but probably in places with certain local leaders.
And maybe look for the same pattern.
I think the patterns, yes, I think patterns are helpful. When you're getting into fusion and coercion, I think there's the God and Country badge, right, that kids have to take. They take a version of it, or can take in the merit badge in Cub Scouts and then in the older levels too. And I always felt pretty uncomfortable teaching it because I was like, this is the natural outgrowth of that, right? The curriculum currently is not structured to fuse that entirely to kind of head in a theocracy direction, but it definitely plants seeds in kids, right? That these are things that can be wed. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here today. I didn't have eval sheets, but if you want to say something to me afterwards about something that was or wasn't helpful, this workshop is in constant development. It'll be different in 2 weeks when I do it. So I'd be happy to hear that from you, but I want to thank you for sticking around for 2 hours today, for receiving difficult information, and for putting that energy into future effort. All of these email addresses, I'm at a summit this week. I won't be contacting you this week, but probably the next week and the week after that, I'll be contacting you about how we can pull together some plans to start to work on various things. Yeah.
Can I ask for like just some parting advice?
Yeah.
About if you are in your friend circle or in your family circle, you have folks that are increasingly displaying these Christian nationalist tendencies. How do you recommend we deal with that, just on a personal level? Do you have some advice about that?
I do. I'm going to pin that in case there are folks that want to leave, and anyone who wants to hear the answer to that question, I'm happy to answer. Are there any other closing?
It's the same QR code that's in the past.
It's not. This is the QR code to the Justice and Jubilee page, but on the drop down, go to Our Current Work. And under Our Current Work, you'll be able to scroll to Resisting Christian Nationalism. That one takes you directly to Christian Nationalism, but you can access the Justice and Jubilee page from that one. Yeah. So that's a subset of the Justice and Jubilee page, is the Resisting Christian Nationalism page. The other two things we work on are racial justice and queer justice. Okay. Hopefully everywhere. Not on the mall. We're not going to do it on the National Mall, but yeah. Okay, any other questions before I address that one? You are welcome to follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, not super active on Instagram, but if anyone wants to help, and our website. And you're also welcome to email us. You can get to us either through my email, which is on my business cards, or solidarity@wvfaith.org. solidarity@wvfaith.org. In which to think of that person as somebody who is struggling with a particular kind of addiction and won't be able to be talked out of it, okay? That might enable you to put some boundaries up that you may need for yourself, okay? There's a lot going on in those statements. That's not a universal statement about substance use disorder, but a statement about how you may want to act in a situation. Some people may need to draw boundaries and not be in communication with people who are sharing these kinds of things. The kind of classic example is a Thanksgiving dinner, right, where relatives are going off and what they're saying is actually affecting the people who are in the room, okay? So if you are a person that feels for your own safety, emotional or physical safety, you need to draw a boundary. What's good for you to do in advance is establish where is the line? What is my level of tolerance? To think in advance so that you can say, I might be able, for the sake of whatever, to withstand this, this, and this. But when we get to this point, I'm out. And I'm out might be, I'm not sticking around for Thanksgiving dinner. It might be, I can't be in relationship with this person anymore. It could be, I need a break right now and then I'll come back into the room. But different, particularly for people who are directly impacted by Christian nationalism or by the pretty aggressive and hateful ideology, people who are directly impacted may operate in those spaces differently than people who have a fair amount of privilege. So you kind of need to look at where you are and what is the best way you can operate there. Are you needing safety or are you needing to be a loud voice for something? Are you needing to maintain relationship or are you needing to resist that relationship or be loud in that relationship, okay? Does that make sense? There are just so many options and it really depends on who the person is and who they're trying to relate to. I will say arguing is just right out. It's just not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Somebody along those lines, somebody told me a long time ago, and I found it to be true, is when you put a person on the defensive, you no longer have a conversation.
Yeah.
They stop listening.
Yeah.
And so you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
I've found that, I've done that a few times since then, and I've said, man, you were absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, just going to say Facebook isn't going to be a place for conversation, for productive conversation. We all slip every once in a while and must respond to something, but it's not going to be productive. So, any other questions before everyone goes? Thank you so much, all of you. I wish you a wonderful day.